Level 1, the analyst. You are 22 years old. You have a degree from a school that matters, not because of what you learned there, because of what the name signals to the people who will read your resume. The fund is called Arcturus Capital. It manages $4.2 billion. 41 employees, 14 investment professionals. You are not yet one of them. You are an analyst. The distinction matters more than you currently understand. Your desk is on the second floor, third from the left. No window. The people with windows have been here longer. You understand this without being told. Base salary, $95,000. Bonus, somewhere between $20,000 and $60,000. Nobody defines the criteria precisely, but everyone understands what it means. Your first assignment arrives on a Thursday. A senior analyst named Marcus drops a folder on your desk. No context. Healthcare company, mid-cap. Earnings in 3 weeks. I want to know if the street is wrong about their margins. He walks away before you can ask a question. You will not leave before 11 p.m. that night, or the night after, or the night after that. This is not unusual. This is the baseline. By month 2, you understand something nobody told you directly. The model is not the product. The model is the infrastructure. What the fund is actually buying is the insight inside the model, the specific, defensible view of why this company will do something the market hasn't priced yet. An edge. You can work 80 hours a week and produce nothing of value if everything you produce is already known by the market. The most dangerous analyst is not the one who makes mistakes. It is the one who is precisely right about things that don't matter. By year end, 2 of your calls have been right. One significantly, one was wrong. You dissected the wrong one completely, traced every assumption, found the error, wrote it up, not because anyone asked, because you needed to understand it. Marcus read it without being asked, said nothing. But your next assignment was more complex than the previous ones. That is how feedback works here. Not words, assignments. You are paid to be right, and you are beginning to understand what that actually requires. Level 2, the senior analyst. 3 years pass. Your title changes. Senior analyst. Not ceremonial. It means you own your coverage. 12 companies, 2 sectors, healthcare and biotech. You know them better than most people on Wall Street, not because you read more, because you think differently about what you read. Base salary, $175,000. Bonus last year, $210,000. Total, $385,000. You have started to think differently about money, not what it buys, what it represents. It represents the fund's assessment of how much edge you generated. A colleague's bonus was $140,000. He left 3 months later, not because he was asked to, because he understood the signal. This environment doesn't communicate with performance reviews. It communicates with numbers. At this level, you understand that information has layers. The first layer is public, earnings releases, filings, press releases. Everyone has it, almost no value on its own. The second layer is analytical. Building something from public information that others haven't built. This is where most analysts compete. The third layer is primary, going directly to the source. Former executives, customers, suppliers. People who know things that will never appear in a filing. This is where real edge lives. You are building the network that gives you access to it. In year 5, you have your first conviction call. A pharmaceutical company the market believes will receive FDA approval. Consensus is heavily long. You spend 11 weeks on primary research, scientific literature, former FDA advisors, pharmacologists. Your conclusion. The trial data has a structural flaw the street hasn't identified. The approval is not coming. You build the short, present it to the PM. He asks 47 questions. You answer all of them. 7 weeks later, FDA rejection. Stock drops 34%. Fund makes $47 million. Your bonus? $580,000. You don't celebrate. You go back to your desk. But something has shifted. You are no longer proving yourself. You are building something. Level 3, the portfolio manager, year 7. Your title changes again. Portfolio manager, $400 million. Yours to manage, yours to grow, yours to lose. The difference between analyst and PM is not intelligence, not research quality. It is conviction under uncertainty. As an analyst, your job was to be right. As a PM, your job is to act on being right when the market is telling you you are wrong. Those are not the same thing. First month, a company you are long misses earnings by 3 cents. Not a fundamental problem. A timing issue you understand completely. Stock drops 8% after hours. Your book is down $12 million in one evening. You sit with that number, not in panic, in assessment. Has anything changed in your thesis? No. You hold. 3 weeks later, updated guidance confirms everything. Stock recovers, book is back, but now you understand, in a way you couldn't before, what it means to hold conviction when the market price is in the opposite. Year 8. A rate decision nobody predicted moves the market and affects 6 of your 12 positions simultaneously. Not because your theses were wrong, because they were all sensitive to the same macro factor in ways you hadn't fully mapped. Book is down 7% in 2 weeks. You spend a month rebuilding the risk architecture, not the positions, the structure underneath the positions. You don't make that mistake again. By year 9, your book has returned 18% net of fees against a benchmark of 11%. You make decisions faster now, not because you think less, because you have a cleaner relationship with uncertainty. You no longer need complete information to act. You need sufficient information, combined with a clear-eyed assessment of the downside and a position size that allows you to survive being wrong long enough to be proven right. That is the PM mindset. It took 9 years to build it. Level 4. The risk manager. This level is not on the career ladder most people imagine. It is not glamorous. It does not generate stories analysts tell at dinner. But it is the level that determines whether a fund survives. The risk manager at Arcturus is a woman named Diana, 11 years at the fund. Never managed a portfolio, never pitched a long or short. She is the most important person in the building that most people outside have never heard of. Her job? Know where the fund will break before it breaks. Every position passes through Diana's framework. What happens if the market moves 3 standard deviations wrong? What happens if 3 of your top 10 positions are simultaneously incorrect? What is the maximum drawdown before investor redemptions create a liquidity problem that forces selling at the worst possible time? These are not hypothetical questions. 83 hedge funds closed in 2008, not because their long-term theses were wrong, because they ran out of time to be proven right. Diana's job is to make sure Arcturus never runs out of time. The tension between PM and risk is structural, designed to be uncomfortable. PMs want concentration, high conviction, maximum exposure to best ideas. Risk wants diversification, correlation limits, drawdown controls. The tension between these two perspectives is not a problem. It is the mechanism that keeps the fund functional. A fund that only listens to PMs takes too much risk. A fund that only listens to risk takes too little. The CIO sits between them, making calls neither side can make alone. In year 10, you spend 6 months working with Diana on a portfolio restructuring project. It changes how you see everything. You have been building models that tell you what a company is worth. Diana builds models that tell you what the portfolio can survive. Different questions, different thinking entirely. After 6 months, you understand something you could not have understood before. The best investment idea in the world is worthless if the position sizing destroys the fund before the idea plays out. Risk management is not the opposite of returns. It is the infrastructure that makes returns possible. Level 5. The Capital Raiser 930. There is a part of this fund that has nothing to do with investing. It exists in a different world entirely. Relationships, presentations, the careful management of perception. The fund manages $4.2 billion. That capital did not appear automatically. It was raised from pension funds, endowments, sovereign wealth funds, family offices. Each relationship built over years, through meetings, calls, quarterly letters, and the slow accumulation of trust that comes from doing what you said for long enough that people stop questioning whether you will continue. The head of capital raising is a man named Jonathan. Jonathan cannot build a model. cannot run a DCF, has never pitched a short. But Jonathan knows 340 institutional allocators by name, by preference, by the specific language that makes each one more likely to say yes. He knows which pension fund is under board pressure to reduce equity exposure, which endowment needs uncorrelated returns, which family office had a bad experience with a previous manager and needs specific reassurance before considering anyone new. Jonathan is not selling a product. He is solving problems allocators sometimes can't articulate themselves. In year 11, the fund has a difficult 6 months. Returns flat. 2 major positions moving against the fund. 3 allocators request additional calls. 1 requests a face-to-face meeting. Jonathan handles all of it. Not with spin. Not with unsupported optimism. With clarity. Here is what we own. Here is why we own it. Here is what would have to be true for us to be wrong. 2 allocators add to their positions after the calls. 1 redeems. Jonathan spends 3 days on the redemption. Not to reverse it, to understand it. The allocators board had changed its mandate. Nothing to do with fund performance. A structural change in allocation policy. He notes it, files it, moves on. Not every redemption is a failure. Understanding the difference is part of the job. Level 6, the Deputy CIO, Year 13. The offer comes in a conversation that lasts 11 minutes. No ceremony, no formal process. The CIO, Richard, calls you into his office on a Wednesday. He tells you the fund is restructuring its investment leadership. He wants you in the deputy role. You will oversee all PM books, involved in every major position decision, representing the investment team in investor meetings. In practice, running the investment function of a $4.2 billion fund. He gives you until Friday to decide. You take until Thursday. The deputy CIO role is the first role in this career where the job is not primarily about being right. It is about making other people better at being right. 6 PMs report to you, each managing $300 to $700 million, each with a different edge, a different set of blind spots. Your job? Understand all of it. Maximize the strengths, manage the blind spots, without removing the conviction that makes each PM effective. That balance is the hardest thing you have ever had to learn. 1 PM named Sarah runs the technology book, exceptional models, thorough research, well-constructed positions, but she holds losers too long. Deep conviction in her analysis sometimes overrides the signal the market is sending. You watch her hold a position through a 22% decline before finally cutting it. You spend 2 sessions with her, not telling her she is wrong, asking questions that help her see what she already knows but isn't applying. She builds a new rule. Any position moving against her by 15% triggers a mandatory review of every assumption in the original thesis. Not a mandatory exit, a mandatory review. 3 months later, she applies it. Finds one assumption that has changed. Cuts the position. Redeploys the capital. She ends the year up 21%. You did not make that call? She did. Your job was to create the conditions where she could. Level 7. The CIO. Richard leaves. He planned it 2 years in advance. Told you 18 months before he went. Gave you the time to prepare. On his last day, a small dinner. 12 people. No speeches. The next morning, you sit in his office. Your office now. The view is different from here. The building faces east. Morning light comes in at an angle that doesn't reach the floor below. You sit with that for a moment. Then you open your laptop, and you begin. The CIO seat is unlike anything before it. Not because of the complexity. You prepared for the complexity over 13 years. Because of the loneliness. At every level below this one, there was someone above you. Someone who held the final accountability. Here there is no one above you. $4.2 billion? 41 people. 312 investors. All of it rests on the quality of your judgment. Not your models. Not your research. Your judgment. Month 4. The fund's largest long position, a healthcare company owned across 3 PM books, shows a problem nobody modeled. A regulatory filing in Europe contains language suggesting the company's primary drug faces a patent challenge 18 months earlier than expected, buried in a footnote. 200-page filing. Your senior analyst finds it Sunday evening. Messages you at 9:47 p.m. You read all 200 pages. Finish at 2:14 a.m. Combined exposure, $340 million long. You make the call at 3 a.m. Partial exit. Reduce 40% across all 3 p.m. books. Keep enough to benefit if you are wrong. Reduce enough to limit damage if you are right. 1 p.m. disagrees strongly. You hear him out completely. Then you hold the call. By Wednesday, 3 other analysts across the street identify the same filing. Stock drops 14% over 3 days. Your 40% reduction saved the fund $47 million. The PM who disagreed sends you a message Thursday. 2 words. Good call. You don't respond immediately. You are already looking at the next file. In year 2 as CIO, the fund returns 24% net of fees. Best year in the fund's history. No celebration, no bottle opens, no quiet laughter in a conference room. Just a quarterly letter that goes out to 312 investors. That evening you sit alone. Same office Richard sat in for 11 years. You think about year 1. The 11 p.m. nights, the folder Marcus dropped on your desk, the 2 PMs who left when you restructured the fund, the $340 million that left with them. Every return has a cost, some visible, most not. You open the next file. A new analyst candidate, 22 years old. 2 calls in her first 3 months that nobody else saw. The kind of calls that tell you someone thinks differently about what they read. You read her work for 40 minutes. Then you pick up the phone. Because this is also part of the job. Finding the person who will sit at the desk on the 2nd floor, 3rd from the left. No window, and begin. Because this isn't a career you step out of. It's a system. And the system needs people at every level to function. The analyst who stays until 11 p.m., the senior analyst who builds the primary network, the PM who holds conviction when the market says he's wrong, the risk manager who knows where the fund breaks, the capital raiser who maintains trust through the difficult periods, the deputy who makes others better, the CIO who holds all of it in his mind at once. Every level necessary, every level connected. And once you understand how it works from the inside, you see it everywhere. In every fund, every market, every institution that manages capital at scale, the same structure, the same pressures, the same quiet decisions that nobody outside the building ever sees. You are inside it now. You have been since the day you found something in a data set that wasn't obvious. And once you're inside, you already know what comes next.